Hey everyone, I'm gonna be mostly quiet, but I wanted to stream the close a little bit. I did take a long off here high off the 7428 holds. So our supports down here were 7428, 7424, and obviously 7421. I wanted to see if they try holding off here and then immediately retrace over the channel, so back over 384449. There's a pretty tight time range here though. Initially we held off our calculated spots down in here. We'll have to see if they can get this back over 5475 and 61. So back in here you can kind of see how they stalled 61. Okay, and this was the 2 o'clock flip through 54, but because they weren't over 54 before 2, I felt like that could have implied some volatility back into the channel. There was an upcoming flip here. I had some flips earlier this afternoon too. I deleted all of them, but it was around 124, 136, 148, 150, 154, and they ended up being like really big reversal type patterns. Another one at 121. This is when they tried retracing and then couldn't quite get back over there. So let's see if they can sweep the channel here within like the first 5-10 minutes post 3 o'clock. Can you guys hear me actually? I didn't even check if my mic was on. So I was using a 97-minute too, just because it was really nicely correlated with some of the earlier highs and these structure breaks on this 3-bar. So like around 124, 1147, 301. Do you guys see this? So I thought this could be a good time frame to use this afternoon, especially with like the reversals back over the channel in terms of negating that channel breakdown. I also liked some of the wider ones off like 25-minute, 47-minute. And this one flips at 315. These ones were linked to that 135, 136 stall. And at 309. I figured this one could end up being a really nice star reversal type pattern. Okay, and you can kind of see how most of these are correlated into the last hour of the day. So if they can get moving here pretty quick, especially around that 305. There's the 305 stick, guys. Exactly like I said, if they can clear the channel within the first 5 minutes, they'll definitely be off to a good start. What a really nice long. I hope you guys took the long with me. I tried to put it in the chat as early as I could down here. I think that they can take this back to the 5-4 break and maybe get it back to 7-4-6-1 retest. The goal is to obviously get it back to 7-4-7-9, 7-4-8-1. I don't know if we have enough time to do that, but there's definitely the volatility is there today. So, I mean, they could, especially if they meet these conditions on time. So the next range in here is 309 and then 315. See if they can close this over above the channel here at 7-4. 4950 and higher. I'd say that condition was met. Those calls moved really nicely too. I picked them up off 40 cents and I just covered a little bit off $1.15. So premiums are moving really nicely. That should have been the first cover, guys, just in case they end up stalling. They did close above 50, which is good, but again, we're targeting closer to 5-4, ideally during this window. And thanks. I am feeling a bit better, but I don't know. I feel like once you catch pneumonia or something, there's still like a shortness of breath that lingers for like weeks. I don't know. But I missed streaming and I miss actively trading. CSCO has been forming up nicely again, guys. I know we haven't really looked at this in a while, but this held our ranges super well. So if someone wants to share that in the thread, I think this could be setting up nicely again. I did have some June monthlies and July monthlies on this one for like a longer dated swing, but it's setting back up. Oil's kind of perking back up a little bit. I did take some GDX today for Friday. I kind of like how it's basing here, especially if ES is successful in getting back over 75.11 tomorrow. We'll have to see how they end up closing this, because this is a pretty this is a pretty neutralized spot to close in if they keep us stuck in the channel. And closing us back here doesn't really do anything. I think they'd need at least over 7.1, 7.8, 7.9. They couldn't quite get 7.9 today. So something that was interesting that they did is, like this afternoon, is they didn't take down 7.9. Okay, and they also, like this area here, or 8.1, and they also didn't come back beneath 11, okay, like 74.11. So I feel like both sides, they kind of left it so that there's still about 3 to 4.5 points in range on each end. Do you see what I'm saying? In terms of like 8.1 and 11, like 74.11, because that's a huge support. They did take out 7488 earlier in the day and 9.1, but this stall back in here I think is kind of what suppressed range a little bit. And then same thing back here. They did hold above the zone by like roughly 3.5 to 4 points. And they did the same thing here too, where they held above that 2.4 spot and 2.1 spot by roughly 4 to 4.5 points. So they left room on every single end to 74.11, 74.21, 24, 74.78 to 81. And then back in here to 95. Do you see that? Because I know the zone break, guys, is 7488, but the calculated area in here is 95, right? 7495. We've talked about this in the past. 7411, 7421 to 7424. Do you see what I'm saying? 7479 to 7481. These were all the more ideal spots, and every single time they reduced range by roughly 4.5 points. Okay, even though this looks like a successful break above 8.1 and 7.9, it still did not clear 9.5. Okay, so because the primary goal now is to get back to 75.11 and 75.21 to 22. Where's my other template? Because this one has the more calculated ranges on here so you guys can see it. Okay, do you see what I mean? Like, while these areas are good, this is the more ideal break in here. Okay, like to get back into these ranges in here. But where they held was extremely calculated. So we'll see. I think there's still some odds that they can at least get it back in here into close. This was definitely a reduction period though. At least 12 to 13 points. That would have probably gotten us our, see? That would have easily gotten us our 6-1 retest. So they are trying to delay things a little bit. They did hold off at 309. And we have our window here at 315. So they'd have to, oh, I still want to try deleting all the flips so I can keep my charts somewhat clean. And we'll see if they're able to get this back above 5-4 retest, because that's essentially what they need right here. And almost the same thing, you can kind of see it's almost the exact same reduction in range again. Do you guys see it? How is everyone doing? How has trading been? I know it's been kind of a slower grind kind of week the last week, which made sense after hitting our big range. We really have to start watching some of these structures though. 2 days now bear flagging. This flips over on Thursday. Hence the importance of negating tomorrow. Okay, guys, do you see what I'm saying in terms of getting back to 75.11, 75.12? The interesting thing is it aligns with structure. It aligns with getting back into this midpoint, into mid-supply. So that was already the condition that we had anyway, but look at how well it aligns with coming back into here. Okay? And ahead of the 25th. So that would put a lot of pressure for the 24th. Otherwise, this could easily be hence 75.11, 75.21, 75.32, 75.38, 75.48 aligning well here with negations ahead of the 25th back to mid-supply. 3-day, I'm sure, was the one that was flagging that flips on the 25th, so this one could... I feel like with this could easily become an engulfing type pattern if they wanted to sustain, but it's more so the 2-day that's putting us at a really big risk, and some of the wider frames, like I'm not too concerned about the 5-day, but some of these wider ones, like the 7-day, okay, like this flips over tomorrow. I think this one is a little bit scarier because this one could easily form into a bear flag if they don't hold, and this flips tomorrow, so that even this puts some pressure tomorrow. This puts more pressure for today's close. Does that make sense? Like today's close not negating, this puts more pressure. And you see how well it aligns with that 75.11, 75.13 area? Do you see that? 7597, 7595 off the 50% ranges. Okay, like back in here. So this time frame puts a bit more pressure on the short term. Otherwise, they could easily form one of these. So what do you guys think? I feel like, because this candle closes today, so this needs, I mean, I feel like that's merely impossible to get that much range into the close unless we get some news or something, or they'd have to immediately negate tomorrow or overnight. 8 days is the same thing. 8-day also has a bear-like structure that could form. So, and these ones have a lot of pressure because there's not very much time. And then something interesting I found is, you see how like the 9-day stuck inside until the 6th? The duration of that 7-day is until the 6th, okay? So I find that interesting because even though this could form a bear flag, they could make it back and forth until the 6th if they wanted to keep the 9-day kind of stuck inside. Does that make sense? So that means that they would probably hold off 7232, 7368, 732244, like that kind of range. So we're in a very back and forth type market dynamic. 10 days more of a negation type pattern that flips over. This one here could still engulf by the 26th. So there's quite a few conflicting patterns because it's very two-directional, and you can see it based on how things have been trading. Okay. I want to see some of our wider time frames, like the 30-day. This one could easily form like a star reversal or a flag Okay, so maybe this one closing red wouldn't be the worst case for wider term, like between June 25th and August 7th. Same with this one. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Because these ones could end up forming a much wider flag. So it might require some patience over the next 2 weeks. I would be very, 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 very diligent with how you're trading things, because we could see a lot of that back and forth, up and down, okay? Heading into into Q3. Can't believe we're already going to be heading into Q3. That's kind of crazy. So far, this channel stall is not not helping. Our downside support for the week is same as before. To 73.99 to 74.11. Okay, that's a huge, huge area to lose. That's kind of what activates the 73.88 to 90.73.71 to 78. These core ranges. You'd ideally want to avoid the 50s this week, I think, like 73, 53, 52. Especially ahead of the 25th. If it's after the 25th, I don't think the risk is as high. But if it's before the 25th, that's pretty high risk. Because that means multiple structures would close with that price point factored in. Does that make sense to you guys? Like why they're keeping this very back and forth? Like hitting an annual range like that, it's not something small. It's something pretty big, and honestly, the market doesn't really owe us too much, especially because we have such a wide duration of time now for mid-year. I didn't really have many odds during this period. It was kind of late until closer to end of session today. And then we can obviously watch our generic time frames. Today's flip was 356. There's a lot of flips today I noticed after the bell. So this time frame was interesting, the 98 minute, because it was aligned with highs, but this is a pretty nasty 3-bar that could continue after the close, specifically if they don't try to come back and retract here before session closes off. But there were a lot of flips around 405, 410, 411. Could track the 20-minute today too, just because it was aligned with highs earlier, but kind of in like 10-minute intervals through 328. This is a multi-flip at 340. To me, it looks like they're going to make this pinnable, to be honest, but banks are actually surprisingly still holding up well. I still have my city swing trade. This one hasn't really broken down entirely yet, so some individual names are still holding up the market pretty good. See if they can get maybe back to retesting the top of the channel here before before 330. 328 is the actual flip, but I want to watch the 330 period here too. That has to be news with Trump or something. We could get a bit of a volatile close here too, just because that's the dynamics and there's a lot of pressure. So I just really didn't think that they wouldn't even at least try retesting 7454 and 7458 before the close. Like, it seemed kind of strange if they don't, but we'll have to see. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts. You guys are pretty quiet today. You guys think they can come back, take out 5-4 and 6-1, and potentially bring it back to 6-6, 7-2, 7-8, 7-9? You guys think they'll keep this stuck in the channel in between here? You think that they'll retest 74.21? What do you guys think? So odds for today are pretty late in the day, which is the only reason why I'm thinking maybe they move things a little bit later. But and because of the fact that we have multiple flips on the 25th and some pressure on that, what was it, the 3-day or 7-day that flips over? So I wanted to see if they can retest the channel here before 330. And there is a flip at 328, so that's linked to high up day. Where did they initially stall? 5-2. 70s I feel like would need some news or something. This is the most pressured window though to get out of the channel. I would say is this window here. Like I know they have until around 340, but I feel like they probably have to do it in these next like 2 to 4 minutes. Otherwise, that's gonna really reduce odds of them even retesting 6-1 or 5-4. So far reductions off 328. See if they can have a bit of a turnaround off like the the mid mark in here. Where's SPX sitting? Okay. Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about, guys. These were the downside targets on ES if they had continued. So this makes total sense. 7349, 7351, 52. Okay, so for SPX, they'd have to get back over 75, 7421, 24. So it's the same targets that you could use. It's so easy. Because you could basically just kind of rinse and repeat whatever we're using on ES for SPX in terms of that differential. Okay, let's see if they can retest here off that 330 mark like we wanted. Well, I would say for sure if they can't get out of the channel within this period, like between here, this period here, ideally here, then for sure not. But if they can at least try pushing the channel between like this 328, 330, 332, 335, 336, then our odds stay in play and favorable for retesting 5-4. 340 had one of the higher probability windows, so I guess we'll have to see. So far though, they're not really pushing. It's still pretty weak. They are, however, retesting 4849. Let me just move this up closer to 48. This initial reduction linked to 6-1. This one here linked to 5-4. So they're already starting to reduce range. You set this back to 4-8. So far, that's a good negation stick here off 3-2. What do you guys think? How many think that they can clear 7,450 by 336? How many think that they're going to delay here? So the window is closer to 336, 335. 340 p.m. had highest odds, but I feel like if they wait till 340 to at least retest this area here, then they're likely going to keep this stuck. It does, but the issue is odds are really late today. Like 350, 356, 4, 410, 405, 401, 403. That makes it like that makes it the case where like they maybe just want to keep it stuck until the close or something like that. And that's mainly if they want to keep it pinnable, I would think. So let's see, there's still a window here, but let me just mark where the high was on here. $35 was the actual flip, but I am watching 336 just because that's usually more in line with imbalance prints. So if 340 is the multi-flip or the period that had some of the higher odds, what time do you think ideally we'd want to probably come back and try retesting 74.50, 74.51? Would you want to do that right at 340 or maybe closer to like 338, 339? What do you guys think? You'd probably want to at least retest 49 beforehand. And ideally, like, try closing over 4.8. Well, so far you can tell, even with the volatility on this 338 stick, that they're really trying to keep this stuck. That looks stuck to me. Especially if they break a bit after or even come back and retest 3.8 during that period. Because they're kind of keeping this like mid-channel here. They've basically kept risk on for both sides. So for bulls, they need over this 5.4, 6.1 area. For bears, they would need 7.421 to 7.424 area. They left about like 4.5 points on each end. Okay, kind of like what we talked about earlier into the close. So staying stuck in here doesn't really do anything for either side, and that makes sense because it'd be basically stuck in the channel. So essentially, like, one end would have to break ahead of the close. For bulls, they'd probably need at least over 4.9. For bears, they'd need back over or back beneath 3.2 to 3.3. Of course, my first day streaming back is being stuck in a channel. What do you guys think? Pin the close. You think that they'll keep it stuck in the channel? You think that bulls have an odd of winning? You think that bears have a shot of coming back to retest our 2-1-2-2? What do you guys think? Most odds are into the close today anyway. Closer to like 356. And just after the close around like 401, 403, 405, 410. The neutralized approach would be basically staying exactly where we are, which is stuck in the channel. Okay, so staying stuck in here doesn't really do anything for us. What do you guys think quickly before 350? Give me some thoughts, and then I'll give you guys mine. Like, this is a very, very, very condensed channel type, like, PA, where they're just keeping it very, very tight in the channel. Typically when things start to, like, should be able to start seeing, like, some sort of a break here soon based on how structure is looking off this. A lot of these in line, though, to being into the close. Let me see off closing sticks. Oops. I don't have 348 marked, but I mean, usually structures start breaking around then. So two things I noticed is they still held above 3.2 after 3 o'clock. Okay, we haven't had any breaks beneath 3.2, so that means channels held. They did break above 4.9, which is good. They triggered 5.2, which means the means was triggered. They're now holding mid-channel around 3.8 and 4.1. Okay, so that gives an odd of, because basically they could have retested 3.4, 3.6, but instead they held 3.8, 4.1. That can give an odd of retesting 4.8, 4.9. I feel like they still have an odd of getting a 5.4, 7.5 break into the close, but they really, 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 really need to hold now. So, like, they can't afford to go back beneath here. And they definitely need a 4.8, 4.9 retest by that 350 mark. For that to be the case. Otherwise, it'll leave odds of either staying stuck in the channel or potentially retesting that low of day. Oil's getting a bit of a move into the close too. Hi Smos, thank you so much. If you guys can all resub with the Amazon Prime, just because I haven't been on Twitch for a while, so all the subs usually fall off. But I do plan on going back to streaming daily, or at least like 2-3 times a week now that I'm feeling better. 348 I would say was kind of weak since it came back and retested 3.6. That's definitely not helpful ahead of 350. So they're still keeping that risk on of that 2428 retest potentially. Mainly if they don't get out of the channel here, I would say like 356 was my late day flip today. These are just generic days or times of days that I marked, but 356 was what I actually had. So 350, that would make 355 important. I also had 401, and I think, was it 401? No, sorry, it was 403. And then 410. Okay, like this kind of relative strength, do you see that? Ahead of 350. They're trying really hard to not lose the plot here of retesting 74.50 by 350. Do you see that? 7448 being retested here into 350. They're trying really hard to keep odds alive into the last 10 minutes of the day. I didn't like that they breached 3.8, but they at least still held the channel. 744875 being tested so far. Still no breaks above though. So channel breaks would be above 49, 4975, okay? I think I have it. Yeah, I have an alert set. What do you guys think? I personally thought that they could get a 5475 6-1 retest into the close, mainly because odds were kind of late today, and due to holding above the zone into the close and still breaking above 5152, but they definitely have to push like within these 2-3 minute periods, specifically by that 355-56, like because 56 is the flip today, so we cannot afford to be stuck in the channel. I would say around like 354, 55. 350 tested 49, but still no clearance, which honestly is probably okay since the odds are, again, like I said, into the last few minutes into the close. Staying beneath the channel here by, I would say, 355, 56 is probably just going to keep us pinned. Maybe around 743844. But I think odds are still there. We'll have to see. So the most ideal time, probably 5-4. 5-5, just to give like an odd of like the 5-6 period at least testing 5-4 or something. But I could be wrong. I'm not always right. It just made more sense though that, I don't know, I feel like keeping in the channel with them testing 8-8 and 9-1 today and then still holding, like they still, even though they tested 7-4-16, so they broke beneath 2-1, they still held above 11. So it's kind of like a volatile neutral close, and what better area would that be than the means? You know what I mean? Especially since 7454 is so calculated, but I mean, I guess they could keep it in the channel if they're undecided, but this would for sure be the period that and gives us that idea in terms of like that direction. Give me a pin, guys. Pin the close. Where do you guys think they'll pin the close? Hurry before 355, 356. Because anyway, that's usually a volatile end of day period for the market. So back in here, the issue, this is where I went short, was when they stalled 6-1. I was a little bit late on my short today. I got distracted by a phone call. I wanted to go short here when they stalled off my 330 or my 136 off the 7.478 break. But this was the bigger failure this afternoon, was mainly the failure of 6-1 and 5-4, okay? And you can see liquidity there too. But that's another reason why I think they could get it back there, was that area was pretty liquid. But so was this area here, so like around 282932. However, price action during the 3 p.m. period has been more constructive for the bull side of things, in my opinion. There it is. 354 testing and tagging here. Where have we triggered so far? 5-3? That's pretty close. This was the period that had odds of getting here if they can try to sustain. But I would say that they need at least a 5-4-7-5 break. 74.50, 250. So that's a close above the channel, right at 354. 55 is usually volatile anyway, so we'll see what they do here. That's a pretty huge reduction stick within the first 5-second flip off 55. So maybe watch to see the 30-second turnaround period here. I need to focus a bit into the close, guys. So I'm just going to share the screen and you guys can watch here. Because I don't want to miss an exit. I didn't like that the 55 stick was a reduction stick though. I feel like that kind of stalling just beneath 5-4 is definitely reducing some odds here, or maybe making it so that they keep it until after the close, like for those later flips, but that definitely did not help probability scenarios here into the close. See if they can at least try holding over like 4-4. Would need to get back over 4-9 though before 4. Anyway, we'll see, because odds were right into like closing periods here. 73, 74.53, 74.52, 75. I think a lot of that came from, remember how I said I didn't really like that they breached 3.8? I would have preferred to have held 3.8. I feel like this played a huge factor into this little tiny reduction here. I know it sounds kind of silly, but these things do matter, okay? Hold over 3.8 I think would have given a better odd of actually tagging 5-4, 5-4-7-5. Alright, 2 minutes to go. And they're still kind of like right in the mid to upper channel. I would say them not taking out 5-4 ahead of then, or also stalling beneath 4-8 before 359. It probably keeps us stuck in the channel, but we can still keep those odds in play for after the bell here. There's still risk on both sides. They still haven't triggered 7421 or 7454. And that's a pretty huge reduction stick too. I guess we'll have to see if they can get some sort of structure breaks within like this next 5-10 minute period here after the close. So risk still kind of stays on for this range in here, and reward stays alive for this area in here. Keeping us stuck in the channel doesn't really do anything for us. It kind of just makes it so that odds are, I don't even want to say neutralized. It just kind of keeps volatility in play and things undecided. My bigger concern though is probably the 7-day, just because this does flip over tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to shut it off from my side of things, guys. We're still within range. We still haven't taken out 7411, but obviously there's some structural risk that we have now in play for the week, and specifically ahead of the 25th. So tomorrow's a very, 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 very important day because it is the final closing day for multiple structures. So we do have high odds of range tomorrow and volatility. So we could see maybe some two-directional price action because there's conflicting structures. Today's close does matter a lot too, because even this 2-day, okay, like this could continue into tomorrow. So we can either see like a full structural breakdown retesting the range from the 12th, or we could see a break back into mid-supply here. There's kind of multiple scenarios that we could see, hence it could end up being volatile. Them closing in the channel would kind of keep that probability alive too, because that would make it that they're undecided on direction or range or which way they want to take this. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow.